For those who happen to be a fan of the popular manga/anime series, there's certainly a lot about Attack on Titan 2 that one can enjoy. But as a gamer who just so happened to play the previous installment, one cannot deny that the developers at Omega Force took a number of shortcuts that unfortunately weakened the overall experience. For starters, one of my biggest gripes of Attack on Titan 2 starts with the presentation of the main campaign. If you just so happen to play 2016's Attack on Titan game, then I would prepare myself to play it all over again, because at least 75% of the main campaign has you replaying the entire first game all over again, with the other 25% simply speeding through all of Season 2 and going to a little bit of what we could see in Season 3 of the upcoming anime. This really upsets me because it makes the entire first game completely irrelevant now, instead of continuing on where the last game ended. But my guess for why the developers decided to do this might be because of how the game's storyline is told this time around. Because this time, you don't get to play as any of the characters from the show, but instead get to play as your own created character that plays through the events of the story. Now, on paper, this does sound like a great idea, having a chance to interact with some of your favorite characters from the anime, but the problem, for me at least, was that at no point did I ever feel like I was an important part of this world, but more or less simply a witness to the events that I was playing out. And I can't help but ask why I just can't play as the characters from the show and just switch between a number of them throughout specific missions. And yes, you can eventually play as these other characters in the show, but only in specific gameplay modes once you've completed the main campaign. But I still think that playing as the main character during the main campaign would have been a much more enjoyable experience, just as it was in the first game. The overall visuals of the game and characters themselves are still great to look at, with some of the action sequences taken right from the anime and recreated perfectly. Though I have to admit, I am still a little bit upset that there is no English dub, and this was a problem that was in the first game, so I have no idea why they wouldn't have at least given us the option in the sequel. Now, if you happen to have played the first game, then you will be quite familiar with how this installment plays out, as everything in the gameplay department is more or less identical with a few new additions. When you're out on missions fighting Titans, the overall feeling of using your ODM gear throughout the various familiar locations is perfect. It can be quite difficult at first getting used to it, because it certainly feels more realistic than it did in the first game, always making sure that there is something for your ODM gear to get hooked onto, and which makes maneuvering your character a constant element that you need to keep track of. A new addition that they added to the combat gameplay is the use of establishing bases. In certain locations on the map, there are points where you can establish multiple different types of bases that can help you. You can establish auto turrets that will attack any nearby Titans, or a mining rig that will help you retrieve rare minerals to upgrade your weapons, and even stock bases that will resupply your stock should your gas and blade inventory get too low. You can recruit fellow scout members to fight by your side, whether by direct order or if you happen to go out of your way to rescue them should they signal for your support. There is a large collection of missions throughout the main campaign. Unfortunately, however, until you get past the 75% mark, most are either repeated or literally taken right from the first game. There are a number of boss battles that can be quite difficult, but most of them don't really appear until the very end of the main campaign. When you are not out on missions killing Titans, you will spend a considerable amount of time in the much expanded hub area interacting with the cast of the anime. As you fight alongside certain characters during missions, you can then talk to them afterwards, and you will then start to develop friendships with them. As your friendship level with each character increases, you will then be granted special perks and unique special attacks that will aid you in combat. You can also take on special bounties for the Survey Corps, upgrade the level of your established bases, purchase, create, and upgrade your ODM gear and weapons, and when you have finished with the main campaign, you can either take your created character or one of the characters from the anime itself and play online with up to 3 friends and take down Titans together in a variety of different kinds of missions. With everything now said, if I had to describe Attack on Titan 2 with a single word, unfortunately the word I would have to pick is cheap. Unfortunately, I can't call this anything more than a cheap sequel. Now, I will go out of my way to say that they certainly did improve on the actual combat gameplay in terms of maneuvering around your maps, interacting with the Titans, because the AI for the Titans has definitely been improved upon. They are definitely much more reacting, and it does take some skill in order to maneuver yourself in the right position in order to take them down. And the addition of the bases and even some of the additional functions in terms of gaining minerals in order to improve your weapons, that was certainly improved upon. But the developers made no attempt to fix any of the problems that were in the original game, and some of the creative choices I certainly just don't agree with. And the fact that they wanted us to make our own characters, the character customization is very, very limiting. Now, I think that this system would have been very, very beneficial had it been limited to only the online play aspect. But going into the campaign and how that was handled, I would have preferred that they just continued off from where the first game ended, instead of making me have to replay the first game all over again, which was, in my opinion, a complete waste of time, because, like I said earlier in the video, they pretty much made this game completely irrelevant, despite the fact that I think the presentation and handling of the story was done much better in this game than it was in the sequel. Now, again, I don't think this is a bad game, but it's still just a very, very cheap sequel, and I certainly would not recommend that anyone go out of the way to buy this at full price. More or less either rent this or pick it up at a sales price, but that's only if you're a really, really big fan of the franchise. Now, if I had to give Attack on Titan 2 a rating, unfortunately, since I did find some disappointing aspects of it, despite the fact that what you want the most is certainly improved upon, I have to give it a 7 out of 10. So, tell me, have you played Attack on Titan 2, and what were your thoughts on it? Please share your thoughts with me and everyone else in the comments down below. And if you like this video, feel free to like and to subscribe to keep track of me in my future video game and movie reviews. And please don't forget to press the link in the description down below in order to follow me on Twitter and friend me on Facebook to keep track of me in my future projects. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I'll see you next time.